So much going on as always. It feels a bit strange to start polluting this natural environment with my voice. I often say that nothing weird ever happens to me, which is especially annoying given the fact that I've been always interested in weird things, in magical things before I even knew that these were weird things. They were just interesting, curious things for me. I was naturally drawn to all sorts of weird shit since I was a kid, and yet I would hear people having, very clearly, let's call them paranormal experiences, for lack of a better word. Is there a better word? Just weird stuff happening to them, undeniably weird, and I would feel sort of jealous because it would even happen to people who didn't have much interest or belief in anything other than material world, and that was their main reality. So I was thinking, why why it's not happening to me. It's not that I needed a proof. It's that I suppose, well, many reasons. I wanted to, of course I wanted a confirmation of what I felt I already knew, and I felt somehow left out, I suppose. I felt like it was unfair, putting work into things and having supposedly no results, whereas these people are just kind of like, things just happen to them and they don't even care. And sometimes it wouldn't even change their mind about the world and all sorts of mysteries that are behind the veil and how vast this world is. So I would say, that I would even say that I'm a psychic brick. Nothing ever happens, and in very dark days, I would even think that all this is bollocks and I'm just wasting my time. And why do I talk to myself in a room and make strange gestures and enchant things and make sounds and use all this theatrics. And although there's still this hunger, this curiosity, this excitement of something out of ordinary happening, even if this is not the main goal of any of this, to have a supernatural circus, just for your pleasure and entertainment. There is always, I think this is, it would be, I don't think it would be genuine to say that, oh, hello, excuse me, speaking of strange things, I had a butterfly here on my hand for a while, and I wasn't sure what was happening with him, and I thought he died at some point, so I just kept him with me for the duration of my walk. And I was complaining because I've seen so many things just coming to me in order to die. Or perhaps they weren't literally coming to me. I was meeting them halfway, I suppose. Always, having my eyes open. Here he is. So I thought that was the case again, of something, just coming to breathe its last breath. And I thought, as much as I appreciate dead things, bones and skulls and specimens, I find it quite upsetting for things to die, especially to see how they lose their life in front of you, their essence. I think it's very, very upsetting, very sad for something, beautiful, full of life, jumping around, exploring their existence, and suddenly it just lies there. So I'm not happy to see things go. But I try to give them another life when I can, or appreciate whatever's left. And sometimes all is left is a thought and memory. So I thought that was the case, and I thought, oh, it's beautiful butterfly, but I think it's on its way out. And I think it's been injured. So I thought I'll just, I'll keep it and perhaps manage to preserve it somehow. And when I was putting it in my bag, it just started, moving. I'm like, oh, fuck's sake, in or out? Decide what's happening, because I, of course I don't want to contribute, wanted to help it somehow. And now it's moving again, and I just don't know what's happening. So I'll just keep it here for now. You don't have any water to give it either. Yeah, I think it's gonna leave us. Or no? This is some zombie butterfly, can't decide, it's struggling between the worlds. So much to say that nothing weird ever happens to me, and actually weird things keep happening, always. And sometimes it's just ridiculous how, just round the corner from your house, it's something strange happens, and it gives you a theme for the day, it gives you something to reflect on for the entire day, and leads to other thoughts and other events and synchronicities. And it can be everywhere, it can happen any minute. And this is something that I find really fascinating and really important and meaningful in my personal journey. And I think that once you start noticing these things together with the rhythms of the day and rhythms of your life, it really gives you a narrative to work with. So perhaps I also tend to, even though it has been said many times that when you're working with other entities and spirits, they don't necessarily have to show up in a full, stereo, in a full vision and sound and all the special effects, and the flames and trumpets and whatnot. But they also can communicate through synchronicities, through dreams, and all sorts of weird stuff, like perhaps animals coming to you for whatever reason. Sometimes it is to die on your hand. It almost feels inappropriate to talk right now. I'm not sure. I think the butterfly is struggling. Poor little creature. So even I tend to ignore that sometimes, or feel like this is not enough, this is not, this is not what I want. I want a, full movie. I want a clear message. I want clear answers. I don't want more questions. I want clear answers. And unfortunately, it seems it seems to require, even to ask for even more work, rather than giving any sort of clear shortcuts. And of course, there are still certain things I want to do and try and experiment, and things that I have to be patient with. I'm not a very disciplined person myself. I know that there are many many gaps in my work. There's a lot of room for improvement, to say the least. So there's in a very there are a lot of things that I could have done wrong. There's no doubt about that. So it's not like I have to necessarily make a huge effort to to think what could have possibly gone wrong, because so many things could have, and it is part of the work as well. But I think it's good to point that out, that there's a lot going on around you, rather than just a very simple cause and effect, direct line, direct result of an experiment to the, in a desirable form. I think it's like with, a bit like with martial artists arguing about what's effective on the street. And there's, if you're a master, then probably whatever you do will be effective. But that's not always that's not the only measure by which, and the only reason for which you practice. So to be fair, in my life, there's been something's walking behind me. What is it? I can hear something rustling. Apart from these ears. So yeah, definitely my life has been very much, full of coincidences and strange events that led me where I am now, and choices that I had to make, and especially things that initially appear as very negative and destructive, that led me to very creative and productive and happy moments and meaningful encounters and all sorts of stuff. And there would really be no one without the other. So I really can't complain. There is definitely a path there. There's definitely meaning in it that I see. And this year has started really with, I've mentioned it has started with a moment of a heartbreak that often is a heartbreak is a internal subjective event, so it doesn't have to be justified or only determined by outside circumstances. You don't have to objectively certain things could be more heartbreaking than others, but it really doesn't matter. What matters is what you're going through. And these events tend to be, very transformative if taken this way, of course, if that's been noticed and worked with. So it's definitely been, hard time, but also very, time of great lessons. And so it started really very intensely, like this new year just marched, like I just kind of, smashed into it this new year. Where is this creature? Okay. And since then, things would just happen one after the other, and a series of very colorful, I would say very vibrant synchronicities that I paid attention to and I got very excited about, and I start noticing it more and more, and it would just be ridiculous. And of course, as I become very excited about these things happening, my natural reaction is to share. I really want to share things. And I wouldn't say I have a whole lot of people with whom I personally share, the strange things that happen. There is a handful, but they're very personal events, and for people to fully appreciate it, I think they have to kind of know the context and be a part of this journey themselves as well. Because I also feel, that's what's coming next. That's the next question that I'm asking myself. When it's okay, productive, and when it can be used when is it a part of the quest, of the journey, to share the things, and when is it that you have to keep silent and keep things for yourself? And there is this part of perhaps me being a little bit superstitious and worried about sharing things, worrying that if I share too much, it will not happen again. And there are certainly a few things that I have not shared with anyone. I just had this feeling that I shouldn't. There are different things that can happen. Someone might, for example, ignore the greatness or the sacred moment of sharing such a secret. They might just ignore it, just not notice, just be busy, talk about something else. Or on the other hand, they might start dissecting it so much that there will be no vessel for the mystery to exist. Everything will be taken apart. And these are not good. I don't think this is adding anything. I don't think these are desirable reactions. Then one can just project things, and add all sorts of input and all sorts of layers and stickers on things that, first of all, have to be revered upon. They have to be cherished and respected, first in silence, I think. People have definitely tendency of jumping into conversation, jumping into conclusions, into adding their own thing before they even had time to fully experience what you're sharing. Because it is an experience, it's not just an information. And I think it's good to recognize when that's the case, when it's not just a mundane exchange of facts. I think a lot of people struggle with recognizing that. That's why it's important to share these things with certain dose of caution, I think. Which is something I'm learning, because I tend to overshare things I'm excited about. And I just, I want to share the excitement, the joy, the things that I have. It's like a big quest, like a big game, like a big plot that is unfolding. This is how I see life, and this is how I see magic in action. And through this lens, I try to see everything that's happening and work with it. There's no dead space, really. So yeah, that's something that I've been thinking a lot about. There's been interesting coincidences, dreams, people that came into my life, I believe, for a reason. And it is my own struggle, my own test to know and recognize when it's time to share and when it's time to keep silent.